Hi, in this lecture you'll find out how you can shrink your PSD file. In my book there's only one or two things that make a difference. Let's see what's what. I have this web design project opened in Photoshop and I also have it placed in a separate folder here. We can see that it's close to 100 megabytes and that's too much for my taste. I'll make a copy so we can compare their sizes as I try out different things. There are a lot of tips roaming around the web on this subject. Some say it's best to hide all your layers before saving it. Let's try it out. I'll click and hold as I move across this entire column. Now I'll use Ctrl S to save it. Let's check the folder and see the new size. That's hardly an improvement. Sure, it went down about 2 megabytes, but that's nowhere near enough. Another piece of advice says you should place a solid color above all your layers. Let's try it out first with white. Ctrl S, and here's the result. Nothing. Now with black. Still no real progress. So forget all the nonsense, and let's focus on what you can actually do in Photoshop CC 2017. And that's rasterize smart objects and merge layers together. The first one will give you the best results. Here I'll use my filter system from up top, and I'll only show my smart objects. If we explore some of these photos, you'll see some of them are scaled to about 50% of their size. This frequently happens when you download large images from various stock photo websites. In most cases, you don't need a 2000 by 2000 image for your projects, so you'll encounter this scenario lots of times. The thing is, if you're sure you won't need them at a larger size, then rasterize them. If another colleague, whether he's a designer or coder, wants to further work on the project, it might be best you first ask him about his intentions. Here I'm all set, so I'll choose every single visible smart object and I'll right-click. From this list, I'll choose Rasterize Layers. Now, if we check the PSD size, you'll see it's about 50% of what it used to be. Now that's what I call optimization, and we didn't lose any quality. We did lose a bit of flexibility down the road. This project is no longer future-proof, meaning if you were planning on reusing some of these graphics in another design, your options are limited due to their size. What you see is what you get. But still, a 50% reduction is fantastic. In our Layers panel, we still have quite a few other ones that are hidden. I see no colors associated with them, so for me that means I can delete them. Save yet again. And now the project is about 25% of what it used to be. Now I think you better understand why smart objects are amazing, but why they also come with a cost. This doesn't translate just in hard drive space, they also require a bit more juice from your computer overall. Still, raster layers aren't that bad. We can merge some resources together, but for this type of project that's not a viable option. Even so, for this area I can merge this photo with this rectangle that's used to constrain it. I'll use Ctrl E for that for all three. Now I'll save and move over to the folder. Not a big change, and that's because raster layers that are of this size won't take up much memory. The same thing applies for shape layers. Feel free to select them all through this filter system. Now right-click and rasterize them. But there's no surprise, I'm not even saving 1 megabyte. In case this wasn't a web design project, we could have potentially reduced the image size, though again in most cases that's not a viable option. Let me try it out with Ctrl-Alt-I. Here it's 1600 by 3388 pixels. This is a great size because anyone can start coding the live version based on it. Still, we can take it down to 50% and hit OK. It's going to take a second until it cuts everything in half. OK, this is our new tiny PSD. Let's save it, and it's much smaller, but the cost is pretty significant. There are ways around it. You could export those smart objects at a larger size and save them separately. This way you could potentially reduce the canvas size to 50% and it wouldn't be such a big deal. Overall, it's one of the few other things you can do to reduce your PSD size. In essence, smart objects are the only substantial resource that clogs up your PSDs. Regarding other tricks or techniques, I've yet to find another that produces these solid results. Of course, you can always archive the PSD, but that's not Photoshop related. So I hope you now know how to optimize your projects. Remove any excess smart objects and rasterize the ones that you don't plan on enlarging. All other fancy tricks don't give you any real file size economy, so don't bother with them.